Did you just put the ring on, or are you in the first few years of your marriage? Welcome to the First Year Marriage Show, a podcast dedicated to helping newlyweds navigate the first few years of marriage. My husband, Marcus, and I will be sharing marriage tips to help you build a strong foundation for your marriage. We believe having a strong foundation is essential to having a happy, healthy, and lasting marriage. We will also be learning from the experiences of awesome married couples who have been where you are today, taking from them lessons to help you build a strong foundation for the lasting marriage you desire. Take a deep breath, relax, learn, and enjoy the show. Welcome to this week's episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I'm your co-host, Ashley Kusi. We hope you all had a great Thanksgiving holiday. We did. We went to my mom's and it was really nice. We were interviewed on the New and Noteworthy podcast. You can listen to it by visiting newandnoteworthy.net/31. This week, we want to thank Jeff Rose for leaving us a review and rating in iTunes. That helps this show rank higher and become available for more couples to see. If you haven't left us a rating and review, we would really appreciate it if you would by visiting firstyearmarriage.com/iTunes. For all the show notes for this episode, visit firstyearmarriage.com/12.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I'm your host, Marcus Kusi, and in today's episode, I'll be sharing the first year marriage story of Kevin and Cetelia Bullard. Kevin and Cetelia have been married for over 14 years, have 3 children, and live in Texas. They also run the well-known marriage website called Marriage Works, and they help couples have healthy and functional marriages. They both came from divorce homes, so I'm pretty sure as we go through their first year story, they'll be able to relate to their past experience and how that helped them build a really strong foundation for their marriage. So Kevin and Cetelia, welcome to the show, and thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your experience with us.
Thank you, Marcus. We're happy to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met each other?
Sure. We've been married for 14 years, and we met each other at a college Bible study. And I'll let Kevin go into more detail about how it transpired.
All right. I thought she was going to talk a little bit longer. So, yeah, we met at a college Bible study, and it was love at first sight. She saw me, and she was smitten, Marcus. She said, "Oh, my God, I don't know who that guy is, but I've got to get to know him." She has a different recollection, but she let me tell it, so that's how I remember it. But I had just graduated from college. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels, and Cetelia was still a junior in school. And so it was kind of interesting. I had a bit more free time than she did. I was working full time, but she was a student. And so that's how we met, and I would see her. I was still living in Chapel Hill at the time, which is about an hour away from where we went to church. And so I would see her on Wednesday nights when I would drive in for Bible study, and then I would see her on the weekend when I came in for church and to see my dad.
That sounds pretty good. I know some people meet their future spouses in church during Bible studies, like you guys said, and some people meet them, on the dancing floor. So it's really nice to know how you guys met each other. After you met each other, Kevin, when did you decide you wanted to go on your knees and propose to Cetelia?
Dude, you make it sound so dramatic. It's like you make it sound so romantic. Well, we were together for 12 months, and then we broke up for 16 months. Cetelia actually dumped me, Marcus. It was horrible.
Oh, my God.
She dumped me. She felt like I was putting too much pressure on her for marriage because she was still in school. So we broke up for quite a while and got back together. And once we got back together, about 3 months passed, and then I proposed to her. It was on Christmas Day in 1999, and this is back during the time when I was listening to a lot of Babyface. And so I had my keyboard there. We were at her grandmother's house, and her mom was there and her twin sister. And I had this little scene set up. I had the room decorated, and I had written a song called Cetelia. So I played that song and trying to do my best Babyface. And I sang to her and I proposed to her, and she said yes. And here we are tonight, 14 years later.
Wow. Congrats on being married for over 14 years.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Cetelia, what was your reaction when Kevin proposed to you?
I was excited, and I immediately said yes. I didn't have any hesitations about what my answer would be. I thought it was, he kind of wooed me with the song and all. It was romantic. It was cute to be able to, I guess, get proposed in that way. So, and it was, I thought it was neat for him to do it at my grandmother's house. My grandmother raised me, so at my grandmother's house with my twin sister, who I'm very close to, and my mom. So
That's pretty good. So you were really excited. Were you surprised?
I sort of kind of was not surprised. I think I sort of knew that Kevin was going to propose because I remember thinking, gosh, I should paint my fingernails tonight. And but I didn't do it. And the next day he proposed and I'm thinking, wow, the Lord just I was just thinking that it would have been just icing on the cake had my nails been painted.
You know what? I've never heard that before, Marcus. I didn't even look at her nails. I didn't know they weren't painted. That's interesting.
So
Wow. I'm really enjoying your story and how you are relating everything to the past. After you guys got married, what word will you describe your first year as? What word would you use?
Learning. I would say learning. And the reason it was a year of learning was because I don't remember a lot from my first year, but I do remember this. I don't know if it was every week or every other week. We were at a couple's house who at that point had been married for over 20 years. We were at their house at least every other week for a year, learning how to be married. They were mentoring us, and I didn't even realize at the time what was going on. But we were there just hanging out with this couple that had been married, had a good marriage, couple of kids. And so that first year, I would say, was just a whole lot of learning with them, but also us learning about one another, our idiosyncrasies and what ruffled the other's feathers or what made the other person feel good. So.
And I would say the same thing too, Marcus, just learning and also practicing. Kevin and I, we attended several marriage conferences before we actually got married. And so after we got married, it was just that first year was just it was time for us to really put into practice just all the things that we had been taught and learned in our premarital classes, as well as marriage conferences that we had gone to beforehand to ensure that we, had the tools necessary to start off on a good foot.
Whilst you guys were learning a lot of things during your first year, was there any adjustments that you guys had to make with either your personal lifestyle or with each other?
Yeah, I'll start here. There are a couple of things that really come to mind. The first was I was used to being very sarcastic, joking around a lot. I would always call somebody stupid or say, you're dumb. I would say, shut up a lot. And here's the thing. It was never said in a nefarious way. It was never meant to demean anybody. It was just kind of like somebody says something like, man, shut up, you stupid man, or man, that was dumb, something like that. And what I learned very quickly is that my wife, who grew up on a farm in rural North Carolina, did not like the word shut up. She did not like the word dumb. She didn't like the word idiot. Wasn't a fan of any type of sarcasm. And she was very sensitive with those words. And so a big adjustment for me was just really getting a whole new lexicon around my wife. And we don't use the word shut up in our house. We haven't, and we don't. And a lot of that was because of just some sensitivities that Cetelia had to those words. And so that was an adjustment for me. And another adjustment was, and I think everybody goes through this, putting your mate first. I was extremely close to my dad and my brother, particularly my dad, because this was coming off of a point where he had got divorced. And after my parents got divorced, in some ways, I almost became like the anchor, if you will, or the rock for my dad. And so we had a very close relationship. It was a very good friendship. And I had to practice what Genesis 2:24 says, just leaving father and mother and cleaving to your wife. And so that was another adjustment for me, just making sure that I was putting Cetelia first. And to my parents' credit, mom and dad, neither one of them ever put any pressure on me to keep them first. And so kudos to them for that.
I guess an adjustment I had to make was just because I'm more of a quiet person. I'm introvert, just kind of like to reflect. Kevin he's a talker, and he processes his thoughts by sharing them with others, and just he has to get it out and talk about it. We're opposite where that's concerned, and so I just had to adjust to. I guess being bombarded first thing in the morning with, with Kevin sharing, he's just ready to share everything that's on his heart, first thing in the morning. And I'm just the opposite. First thing in the morning, I just like the quietness. I like to journal, and so I've had to adjust where that's concerned.
So whilst you were going through these changes personally, was there any particular steps that you took to adjust to being with Kevin?
I guess the biggest thing was just really understanding that Kevin was different than me, and that there was nothing wrong with that. And also because I'm the wife and I'm his helper, then I tried to view it differently, change my perspective, and instead of focusing on me and just how I want things to be, I try to look at it from the standpoint that if I'm able to listen to Kevin, then I'm helping him. He's able to bounce ideas off of me, and he's able to share and get things out so that he can process things and move forward in whatever task that he's working on. So I try to change my perspective of it and see it as a way, and see it from the standpoint that I'm helping Kevin when I'm there to listen to what it is that he has to share with me.
I completely agree with what you're saying. I know sometimes as a married couple, having your spouse support you is what you really need to be able to make those adjustments that you're going through, or having someone to talk to, especially having your spouse to be the one that you're talking to, sharing the experience that you're going through with, is really beneficial to your marriage and to you as a person also.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin, you made mention about having to leave your dad and then cleave onto Cetelia. What are some of the things that you had to do to be able to adjust from cleaving to Cetelia and having to let go of your dad in terms of you leaning on him?
Well, one of the things is my dad for years and to this day has just been a good sounding board. I have a very wise father who's been through a lot of different things, a lot of different experiences. And so instead of going to my dad first thing, going to Cetelia. And, and there's still a place for me to ask my dad questions and to get his opinion. But he became second place after going to Cetelia. I mentioned also earlier, Marcus, that I had a really close relationship with my brother. And it did not happen immediately, but when Cetelia and I got married, she was not my best friend. At that point, when we got married, really, my brother was my best friend. My brother and another guy friend were my best friends. I had known them longer than Cetelia. We had developed a closer bond. And so another thing that had to happen was me just shifting just that fondness for that BFF, if you will, from those guys, from my friend and my brother to Cetelia. So those are a couple of big adjustments for me to actually do that leaving and cleaving.
So with the adjustments that you both had different adjustments that you had to go through, will you say the adjustments that you had to go through was the biggest struggle that you had during your first year?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, everything else, honestly, was fine. I mean, fortunately, we never had any sexual problems. We were both virgins when we got married. So aside from, I guess I can't say we didn't know what we were doing. There's only so much you have to do to have sex. You can figure it out pretty quickly. But we didn't have any type of sexual issues. We didn't have any drag down blowouts. Like there were no fights or anything like that. There was nobody from a previous relationship who was in the picture that caused any issues. We both believed the same thing where our faith was concerned. We were on the same page, and so it was pretty good. It was good.
That's really nice to know. I know during the first year, it's very, very common for couples to have exciting and funny moments that they can share with other married couples or other newlyweds who are looking for experiences about the first year of marriage. Can you share light onto one of the funniest or exciting moments that you guys had during your first year?
One of our exciting or funny? It would probably just have to be, I guess maybe an exciting part was showing up at church as a married person. Who am I kidding? You know what, Marcus, probably the most exciting thing for me, the first year of marriage, quite honestly, was just having sex. I had waited for 25 years. It got to the point, my friends were calling me Super V for super virgin. And I just looked forward to having sex. And I'll try to keep this as as clean as I can. But I came home from work one day, and Cetelia was working outside the house at the time, and she had come home before me, and I didn't know it. And I walked in the house, and Marcus, she was laying on the couch, and she didn't have a lot of anything on, and I still remember that day. That was a pretty fun time. And so that was probably the biggest thing. I mean, and to me, it really felt like, man, this is just so good. I've waited so long for this. And I was just so happy that things just went well there where sex was concerned. And it was fun hanging out with our friends and then some of our other friends who were married at that time, hanging out with them and learning from them. So that was fun and exciting. And things that typically couldn't do because you weren't married. It's like, well, you know what? We can do now. We can go to this place together as a couple, and we're not singles anymore. We can go to a marriage conference, and we're married now. And so the learnings take on a whole new meaning. And so, that was fun. That was exciting. And maybe some of the listeners are like, seriously, that was fun and exciting. But hey, I'm a pretty simple person. It doesn't take a lot for me to be happy. But that's what I recall most of all.
Yeah, and for me, I just think it was just fun to, like Kevin said, there was something magical about being married, and that first year we lived in that bubble of, we're married now. I mean, you had a particular smile or a particular walk about you because I felt like I did because I was at a new place, in a new season. I was married. And so, and then also we just didn't have kids at the time. So we just had so much more freedom than what we do now. And,
we have freedom now. I wasn't aware of that.
So you got married and you were both virgins, and then you decided, okay, now we are virgins. Now we want to break the dark, as some people would say. Like, what was the emotional experience like being able to get married and now we are allowed to have sex the way we want to and whenever we want to? Like, what was the emotional feeling like?
The emotional feeling.
Yeah. Like, was it like winning the lottery, or was it like I just finished, got ready from college? Like, what was it like?
Wow. Let me see if I'll just give you some song titles to describe it. Oh, what a night.
Oh, what a night. Okay.
July, back in 2000. Michael Jackson and his brothers had the song, Can You Feel It? I mean, that's another one. Lionel Richie, All Night Long. And then he had, Oh, What a Feeling When You're Dancing on the Ceiling. I mean, any of those fit. It was just exciting. And probably the thing that was most exciting, and then I want to add something to this. It was exciting to know, wow, we waited, we did it the way we believe God says couples are supposed to do it. And this is our reward. It's good. It was just good. It was good. And what I want to say to that is, because I know that not everybody listening waited or has waited to get married to have sex. I mean, and even some Christians have, their own thoughts about that. But here's what I want to say. Even if a couple did not wait to have sex before they got married, God can redeem that. And that's the wonderful thing about our Heavenly Father. He's all about forgiveness, and he's not trying to keep good things from us. He's always trying to give us good things, and he's a restorer. And so if there's a couple listening and you're about to get married and you've already had sex, you know what? Just confess it, repent, and God can redeem it. Or if you're already married and this, you want to say, well, gosh, this is happening because we didn't wait, God can redeem that situation as well. That's what he does. He's a redeemer.
Is there anything you want to add, Cetelia?
No, I don't think there's anything I want to add.
Oh, okay. I'm really enjoying today's conversation. It's taking a lot of different twists, but I like how we are all being focused and sharing a lot of different aspects of our own lifestyles and things that we believe in. And I know you are both Christians, so shedding light onto your Christian faith is something I also appreciate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. During your first year or during the periods that you guys have been married, I know you made mention about going to conferences. Is there any resource or program or book that you think newlyweds listening to us today would be able to go get their hands on, read or listen to, and that will have a big impact on their marriage?
Yeah, there are a number of great books out there. But the book I would say that is a must read for a newlywed would be The 5 Love Languages. And even if you don't read the book, at least going to the website, 5lovelanguages.com, and doing the assessment. just because you learn so much about yourself, you learn about your mate, and that's just, I would say that one. Until our newlywed book comes out, I would say the 5 love languages.
And a book for wives that I would recommend is The Excellent Wife by Martha Peace. That's just a book that I constantly go back to. It's just on target, it's on point, and it's really helped me to develop in my role as a wife.
That is really nice to know. I know with these resources, I've personally read the 5 love languages, and I read it alongside my wife, and we learned a lot of things that we didn't even know about each other, and we were able to communicate better as a result of reading that book alone. It changed the way we communicate with each other and the way we spend quality time together, because I would think quality time is sitting down and talking, but with my wife, she wants to have a deep intellectual conversation, and that book really helped us get on the same page in terms of being able to communicate with each other and spend quality time together.
Right. It's a very, very simple book, but so powerful once you just grab the principles and actually put them into practice. It can make such a huge difference, as I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah, it makes a really big difference. So listeners, if you haven't read the 5 love languages before, I would highly recommend that you go out there on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles and get a copy, or even you can get a copy from your local library and then read it. It's a book that has impacted a lot of marriages, and I know it's also going to impact your marriage too.
Yeah, and if it's okay with me saying this, we actually conducted a webinar on the 5 love languages. And so even if some folks just aren't readers and don't want to read the book, we conducted a webinar where we go through each of the languages and we talk about them and break them down. And we have that on our website at shop.marriageworks.us. And so we have a 5 love languages webinar, and that will give you some good insight as well.
Listeners, I'll link everything that Kevin and Cetelia have mentioned in the show notes. So all you have to do is go to the website, and all the show notes will be there for you to be able to access these resources. So after being married for over 10 years, what are some of the things that, Kevin, you and Cetelia, you do together to grow together as a married couple, so you don't grow up one day and be like you guys have grown apart, or because you guys don't have anything in common, you want to separate or get a divorce?
Yeah, well, things we do together. We're doing this a bit more because of Marriage Works, going out and speaking, just taking trips. But that was also one thing that we were doing before we even started doing Marriage Works. So we tried to do it at least once every 3 to 4 months, just go somewhere, even for just a couple of days. Another thing is sitting down and watching some TV, putting the kids to bed and watching TV, making sure that we keep talking, make sure that we keep sharing good and bad things, because it just helps bring you together. When you can talk about these things, it helps form some intimacy.
So, Cetelia, is there anything you want to add to what Kevin just said?
Yes, there are a couple of things that I can think of that Kevin and I have tried to be consistent with, just so that we don't grow apart. And that is, we typically will take walks together. It's a form of exercise, but also it just allows us to just get away from the house and the kids for a moment and just talk. And so we try to, on a regular basis, just walk through our neighborhood and hold hands sometimes. Sometimes we're not, depending on how fast we're walking. And we'll talk and we'll share. And I find that to be quite enjoyable. And I think Kevin does too.
Sorry.
And another thing that we had done, but we probably need to get back into it, is we had a book. It's called a Conversational Starters book. And it was just a book of questions, and you just ask your mate the question, and it's just really a platform to start off a conversation and just to get to know your mate a little bit better. It's a book that we had worked through, and that we need to pull back out and start doing again. But so yeah, those two things are what I would add.
Okay, with the book that you just mentioned, we just talked about the Conversational Starters. Do you know who the author is?
It was Dennis and Barbara Rainey.
Oh, Dennis and Barbara Rainey. Okay.
Yes.
Before we end the show today, I'm really thankful you guys came on the show to share your story and your first year marriage experience. What is the one lesson or advice that you guys wish you had known before you got married or during the first year of your marriage?
Probably that women are always right. And just I'm just joking, of course. But all the men are like, yeah, I wish somebody told me that. That it takes time. It takes time to become one. It's not something that happens in 1 year. It's not something that I believe happens in 2 years. It's a process. You are always in a process of becoming one. And the reason is everything's always changing. You're getting older. Your career is changing. Your health could be changing for better or for worse. Your finances could be changing for better or for worse. There are children coming onto the scene. Your parents could come to live with you if they get ill. There are any number of reasons why you're in constant motion, just internally and physically and emotionally and spiritually. And for these reasons, if you're changing like that, so is your mate. It takes practice and time and patience and effort to become one, because you're always trying to match up two things that are always in motion. It's like two cars going down the highway at the same speed over 20 miles and riding beside each other. It's just difficult because there are a lot of other things on the road, so many different things that can keep that from happening.
I would probably say that just getting to know your mate and not and really taking the focus off of yourself and what your needs are, but finding out who your mate is and really pursuing your mate makes for just a really good and enjoyable marriage, and not sweating the small things. A lot of times husbands and wives can just get bent out of shape over little things. And so I've learned to not really sweat the small things, and it's something that I'm working on, that I'm still working on. But but to enjoy the process, So I would just say that.
And if I can add this to what Cetelia said, the interesting thing is when you're in your early years of marriage, you have no perspective at all. You really don't know what's a small thing, because particularly if it's a new thing, everything's huge. It's kind of like you and Ashley, you're perhaps you have some experience now with your second child, some ways you acted with your first child. It's like, oh my God, everything's like an emergency. At least it was for us with our first child. But by the time our second and third came along, I mean, the stuff that we were calling the hospital about with our first kid, with the last kid, we're like, yeah, whatever. She'll be better. She'll be better in a couple of days. Just give her some time. And so I think one of the things that helps you gain perspective faster is to spend time with other married couples who have good marriages, couples who are working on their marriage, having a peer couple, that is a couple who's right around the same age as you, but then also having a mentor couple, a couple who's been married 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years longer than you have, who's experienced more things. And whenever you bring a problem to them, they just laugh and say, oh, it's just par for the course. Don't worry. It'll blow over, right? And it's important because you can't have perspective if you don't have the experience.
Cetelia and Kevin, thank you guys for sharing your advice and your experience with your first year and giving us a lot of wisdom to ponder over and things that we can apply in our marriage to improve our marriages and be able to relate better with our spouses. Before we say goodbye today, what is the best way that our listeners can get in touch with you guys or be able to contact you guys if they want to say thank you for sharing your story? Your story really helped me throughout this struggle or this problem that I was going through in my marriage.
The best two ways to get us, first of all, probably be our Facebook page, which is, of course, facebook.com/marriageworks. And you can join our community there. We've got over 420,000 folks who are part of that community, and it's thriving, and we're excited about that. And the second way is our website, which is marriageworks.us. Again, marriageworks.us. And through those two entry points, you can get to everything else we have, the rest of the social media, and our resources that we sell from our site.
Thank you guys for sharing your experience. I really appreciate it a lot, and I know our listeners are going to apply the tips and advice that you've given to us today and learn from your experience also.
All right. Well, thank you for having us, Marcus. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. To submit a question, feedback, or suggestions for the podcast, visit firstyearmarriage.com/feedback. Apply what you've learned today and build a strong foundation for the happy, healthy, and lasting marriage you desire. Enjoy your marriage. Enjoy your life.